What's up guys, Kevin here from KevsPicks.com, and in today's video we're going to go over my DraftKings NFL Week 4 picks on my laptop here. But before we get to those, just want to mention, if you haven't already signed up for Fantasy Labs, highly recommend you sign up. I'll leave a link to sign up below. I do exclusive videos over there for NFL each week as well. So let's get right into the picks.
All right, so before we get into my Week 4 picks, quickly wanted to show you guys my exposures for the Millie Maker contest at DraftKings last week. This is something that you can find at Fantasy Labs. Again, link is in the description if you want to check it out. You can search any user on DraftKings that have entered the contest, and it'll show you the exposures for the players that they have in their lineups for the games that have already started. So the day after the Millie Maker contest, you can go back and check which users had which players, how much percentage. So this is right from Fantasy Labs, and I'm showing this because a lot of you guys saw the lineup I had that was in first place in the Millie Maker for a good hour or so when the early games were going off. And a couple people on YouTube commented that I didn't have any of those players in my video for Week 3. So I wanted to show you guys the guys that I did talk about in my video. So you see those stars, kind of stars on the right side of the players' names. Those are guys I talked about in my video last week. So you can see all the guys in my video I had at least 18% exposure to. And a lot of the guys were top for their position. So you can see there, Le'Veon Bell was the top running back. Rashard Matthews was the top wide receiver. Colts defense was the top D. So a lot of those guys I had the most exposure to for that position, and I had a lot of exposure to all of them. And then you can see the check marks there on the left side. Those are guys that I sent out in my email update. And then you can see the stars on the left side as well. Those are guys I talked about in my Fantasy Labs video. So although sometimes I will have lineups without guys in my videos, the guys that I do talk about in my videos, I have in a ton of my lineups as well. So I throw in a ton of lineups, sometimes 150 lineups into the Millie Maker, which is the max. So there's definitely going to be lineups that I have that don't have some of these players, but just because I don't have some of them in a couple of the lineups doesn't mean I don't have a lot of exposure to them. So you can always check over at Fantasy Labs. Again, link in the description. Check it out. Great tool to research some of the top DFS players. All right, so on to my Week 4 picks. These picks are made with guaranteed prize pool or tournaments in mind, so not really cash game plays, although I will use some of them in cash. The prices listed are DraftKings pricing, but I will almost always like every player mentioned on FanDuel as well for the week, as long as their pricing isn't crazy over at FanDuel. I make multiple lineups each week, and these are just some of my favorite picks. For updates on my picks closer to Sunday, make sure you subscribe to my emails, and the link to do that is in the YouTube description as well. All right, so my top stack for Week 4 is going to be Dak Prescott at 6,200 paired with Dez Bryant at 6,500. The Cowboys are at home versus the Rams as 6-point favorites, and we've got a fairly high total at 47 points in this game. Prescott has scored 17, 17, and 22 DraftKings points this year, and that was against 3 solid defenses in the Giants, Broncos, and Cardinals. A little bit better of a matchup at home against the Rams this week. Prescott had 17 or more DraftKings points in 14 of his 19 games played in the NFL so far this year, or so far in his career. Dez Bryant is $1,000 cheaper than Week 1. He was $7,500 in Week 1, down to $6,500, and he's got the best matchup yet. He scored just 6, 18, and 9 DraftKings points, but he had tough cornerback matchups in each of those games. This week, he doesn't really have that tough of a matchup. I expect him to have a big game. $6,500 is a little too cheap for him. We know he does have a high upside. He scored 20 or more DraftKings points in 6 of his 13 full games played last season. I wouldn't be surprised if he put up over 20 DraftKings points. Love this stack at this price. Next up, we got my favorite running back, Lesean Mccoy, 8,400. The Bills are in Atlanta as 8-point underdogs, but we've got a high total at 48.5 points, so the Bills are expected to put up their points as well. McCoy had a solid Week 1, putting up 23.9 DraftKings points, but then has fallen off a little bit with 10.3 and 13.9 DraftKings points in Weeks 2 and 3. But those were against 2 tough defenses in Carolina and Denver. So he's got a better matchup against Atlanta. The Falcons ranked 28th in yards against per rush attempt this year, and they struggle against pass catching backs, which we've seen the last 2 years. McCoy has 6, 7, and 7 targets in his 3 games played and 5 or more catches in each of those games as well. And last year, he scored 28 or more DraftKings points 6 times. So we know he's got massive upside and not a bad price at 8,400. Probably will be somewhat popular, but I like him quite a bit. I'll have him in a lot of lineups this week. And then we've got another expensive running back here, Kareem Hunt, $8,500 on DraftKings. If you guys are looking for more of a value or a cheaper running back, I'll try to email one out on Sunday morning. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to my email updates, and I'll try to get out a cheaper running back. But right now, I wanted to mention Kareem Hunt. They're at home. The Chiefs are at home versus the Redskins on Monday Night Football. So this is for the Thursday to Monday night contest only, but there's some good contests out there. So I'll be playing these contests especially just to get some exposure to Hunt this week. The Chiefs are 6.5 point favorites with a very high total set at 49.5 points. And I believe the Chiefs implied team total is at a high 28 points. So far, Kareem Hunt has been dominant this year, 49, 25, and 28 DraftKings points in his first 3 games. I know that does include a long run towards the end of his week 3 game last week to get a good DraftKings score. But overall, he's been dominant in his first 3 starts. I would expect that to continue this week against the Redskins. The Redskins do rank 7th in yards against per rushing attempt through 3 games, but that includes games versus the Eagles and the Raiders, who both haven't really established a running game. In their other matchup versus the Rams, Gurley averaged 5.5 yards per rush. Hunt has averaged 3 receptions per game as well, and he gets most of the red zone carries. So I think he's got a great chance at a touchdown Monday night, possibly a couple. And I really like him, even at the high price, 8,500. I'm going to be playing some Thursday to Monday contests just to throw Hunt in there. We got a value wide receiver here, Terrell Williams, 4,400. The Chargers are at home versus the Eagles as 0.5 point favorites, total at 47.5 points in this game. So some points expected to be scored. The Eagles have a pretty good defense, but they rank 25th in passing yards against per game, and they're dealing with some injuries in their secondary. We saw Eli Manning pick them apart last week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers were able to move the ball through the air this week. Williams has just 10, 9, and 3 DraftKings points so far this year, but he's been targeted quite a bit, 7, 4, and 7 times in his first 3 games, and he's played 93.7% of the snaps for the Chargers. So I expect his DraftKings production to increase. It's a little bit of a risky play, but if the Eagles secondary is hurting, I like him quite a bit for the price. Another value receiver here is going to be Jerron Brown, $4,000 on DraftKings this week. The Cardinals are at home versus the 49ers as 7-point favorites with an implied team total at 25.8 points. So this is going to be a play for me if JJ Nelson or John Brown are out, or if they're both very limited during the week. So I'm going to be watching that. If the Cardinals have all 4 of their receivers healthy, I'm going to limit my exposure to Jerron Brown. But if either one of those 2 guys are out, I really like this play at 4,000. Brown has played on 81.5% of the Cardinals snaps, and that includes week 1 when John Brown was healthy. He did see 0 targets in week 1, but 11 targets and 6 targets the last 2 weeks, including 4 red zone targets. And he put up 11 and 10 DraftKings points the last 2 weeks. So $4,000 is too cheap for him if one of those 2 guys are out. So that's something to watch. But either way, I think I'll be playing a bit of Jerron Brown, even if those guys are in the lineup. One of my favorite tight ends this week, Jesse James, $3,000. The Steelers are at Baltimore as 3-point favorites. This game does have a lower total at 42.5 points, but that doesn't really bother me too much. Jesse James was injured a bit in week 3, but he still played 72% of the snaps, and he's playing 86% of the snaps on the season. So that was something I was kind of worried about going into the season, was how much he would play, given that they picked up Vance McDonald there at the start of the year. But he's playing quite a bit of the snaps there, 86%, and a lot of the pass catching downs. So he's seen 8, 5, and 4 targets in his first 3 games, including 4 red zone targets as well. The Ravens ranked 25th in DraftKings points against first tight end, so it's a good matchup for Jesse James, and I'll be looking to save at tight end this week, so I think James is a good value play at just $3,000. My top DST option this week is going to be the Bengals. They're $3,500 this week on DraftKings. The Bengals are at home versus the Browns as 3.5-point favorites with a low total at 41 points, and the Browns' implied team total is at just 18.8 points. The Bengals rank 6th in yards against per play and 10th in yards against per pass attempt. That does include 2 games versus below average offenses, the Ravens and the Texans, but the Browns could be worse than both of them. Kaiser has thrown 7 interceptions and been sacked 10 times through 3 games. So I do see some potential with him, but I do see that he turns the ball over a lot. He holds onto the ball a lot, makes some errant throws. So I'm going to continue to play defenses against him at DraftKings. It's worked so far this year, and I don't see why it won't continue this week with the Bengals. 3,500 at home, my favorite DST option of the week. All right, guys, so if you guys want to win more money at DraftKings or FanDuel this year, you got to sign up at Fantasy Labs, the best DFS tools out there, in my opinion. I'll leave my link in the YouTube description below. Go check them out. You'll get access to the Sports Geek model that you see on the screen, as well as all the other pro models and all the great tools that they have over there. So check them out, link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a big favor and click that thumbs up button on YouTube. It will help support my YouTube channel and motivate me to create more of these videos each week. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos I post. Good luck this week. Hopefully you make some money. Talk to you later. Over at Fantasy Labs. So if you don't have an account yet, make sure you sign up. I'll leave my link in the YouTube description below.